about to get started. If folks can come and sit down. Let me try that again. If folks can sit down, please. There's going to be lots of time for talking afterwards and socializing a little bit. All right. There should be enough chairs if people would like to sit down. It's great to see you all in this socially distanced event. All right. I think we're ready to go. We're going live. We're recording and live streaming, so people around the world can watch this. I'm sure there are Arlingtonians all around the world that are going to be tuning into this, so everybody will get started and keep things cooking along. And I just want to say good evening. Thank you so much for coming. On behalf of the Arlington at 100 Committee, welcome to our celebration of Arlington's 100th anniversary of being called Arlington, and we are only about 1 year and 8 months late. But we've done it, and we're here, and it's great. I'm Libby Garvey, as I think you probably all know. I'm chair of the committee and member of the Arlington County Board. I'm really pleased to be your mistress of ceremonies tonight. So, as I say, we're holding this celebration a little bit late. We'd originally planned it for March 2020. We're delighted you could be here, and delighted to have people from home being able to watch it too. Our theme has always been Arlington at 100, looking both ways, looking to the future, looking to the past, and then looking to the future. And our committee really wanted this exhibit and celebration to kind of prompt reflection and thought. And sort of there's much to celebrate over the past 100 years, but there are lessons we learned and that can need to be learned as we think about what kind of community we have been and what kind of community we want to be in the next 100 years and what it will take us to get there. I hope you've had a chance to enjoy the exhibits here a little bit. As you've noticed, we've put them in 5 sort of general kind of areas. Volunteerism and activism, that's kind of a major thing that Arlington has always done. Growth and development, diversity in our neighborhoods, our major people, and it's been interesting because sometimes you find out there are people who are really important to our history, but maybe you haven't heard of them, and that's part of the point of this project. Education is a theme, and also our environment. We've got a few speakers here tonight to help us put it all in perspective. We're going to seal this time trunk. It may have started at one point as a time capsule, but it pretty quickly was clear we weren't going to fit enough into the time capsule. So we've got a time trunk. We're going to maybe even sing happy birthday, and we're going to let you know how you can learn some more if you want. You know, I think the past 2 years have really shown us all how much the world can change in a very short time, how fragile life is, and how important it is to understand our past as we create our future. We on the Arlington at 100 Committee have been energized by all of the stories that we've been hearing and the history we have discovered while preparing for this event tonight. And so, as I say, while tonight is celebrating the past 100 years, lots to celebrate, it's also the beginning of a renewed effort to understand and present our history so it's easily accessible for everyone over the next 100 years. So to get us started, I am pleased to welcome the chair of the Arlington County Board, Matt DeFranti. Matt?
Thank you, Libby, and thanks everyone for being here. I want to offer a fact, an opinion, try out a metaphor that I think fits for today, and then tell you a story. I'll be super quick. The fact, Charlie knows this, and many know this, is that at one point, Arlington was known as Alexandria County. We were out county from the big city of Alexandria. As you think about Arlington with 239,000 people in it now, it's a long way from out county Alexandria to the Arlington County that we know today. An opinion, you know, if you look at the vision for Arlington and you look through several other documents, you see this phrase, and I do not know who it is most directly attributable to. It could have been Ellen Bosman, I'm not sure. Where every person is important. And we are closer, I believe, today to that than we've ever been. And certainly over the last year, I've gotten to feel all of the voices that are important and have ideas to share. But I hope we keep that phrase in mind as we look forward to our next 100 years. A metaphor I've been asked, and I think this is totally appropriate. Would you raise your hand if you've been on a commission in Arlington County, please? I started with that. Would you keep your hand raised just for a minute? We're going to get this commission first, and now would you raise your hand if you are a elected official in Arlington County? And would you raise your hand if you're a former elected official in Arlington County? If you've been in one of those three buckets that I've just described, would you raise your hand? Okay. If you are a citizen, volunteer, resident, also raise your hand. All of you make Arlington. It is not abstract. It is the people that we get to serve and the people that we know that make our reality for Arlington. And a story. I'll finish with a quick story, which is in January when I started, we rotate as chairs, and when I started the year, I talked about three themes. We had to stabilize our community, we had to recover, and then we had to build a community and a county government committed to equity. There's more work to do on each of those three, but I hope you feel as though we've stabilized our health and your lives are a little more steady now than they were in January and February. And I think I'll just focus, we have much more work to do on becoming a fully equitable community and becoming, as Parissa says and others say, we got work to do to become the beloved community that Dr. King referred to, for sure. But as far as recovery, Libby has been working on this, and we all have been working on this. This is a moment where I feel like recovery is taking a step forward. We are here together, noticing our past and thinking about what our future should be. And so I hope you share, as we head to Thanksgiving, some feeling of a little bit more recovery that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, Chair of the County Board, Chair of the School Board. Barbara Cannon, and please come.
Thank you, Ms. Garvey, Chair DiFerranti. Good evening, everyone. Well, speaking of those connections, and if you look around this room, you can see that Arlington Public Schools is woven together with the 100-year history in Arlington. I'm very pleased to be here this evening on behalf of the school board and Arlington Public Schools. And I do have one of my colleagues here with me today. And speaking of history, the first elected African-American woman to serve on the school board and to serve as chair, Monique O'Grady, is here. We are living history and creating history every day. So we can talk about history in different ways. We can talk about our graduates. And if you had a chance to look at the displays around the room, you'll see that many of our graduates are represented. We have some graduates represented right here in the room. People who've made history in a variety of ways. Artists, entrepreneurs, writers, Charlie Wilma was here, explorers, government officials, military leaders, and all kinds of creators, thinkers, and dreamers. Our graduates have contributed locally, statewide, nationally, and globally. We can talk about our buildings. If you walk into Swanson Middle School, you will see the plaque that shows that the Works Progress Administration was responsible for the building of that school, FDR's New Deal. Today's Hoffman Boston Elementary School was the segregated black high school at one time. And today's newly named Dorothy Ham Middle School was the first desegregated school in the Commonwealth. And if you haven't had a chance, you can read about that right over there on the wall. The story of Arlington's desegregation is a story of civil rights activism here in Arlington. But also, frankly, it's a story of this community not wanting to close its schools due to massive resistance. It's a story of people all over Arlington just wanting good public schools. I forgot I'm allowed to take my mask off while speaking, right? That, I believe, is the main theme of our history together. Arlington has always been and continues to be a community that believes in public education and strongly supports public schools. History happens in waves and cycles, but there is that thread in Arlington of always supporting public schools, a constant thread, and we thank you for that. Today, our students are living history with the pandemic. Just as the Depression-era generation, or the World War II generation, or the Civil Rights generation were informed and changed by events happening around them, our young people today will be shaped by this pandemic. Our job in Arlington and in Arlington Public Schools is to ensure that they are informed but not harmed by the history that's been happening around them. We want them to carry forward with the resiliency, the adaptability that they've developed over the past 2 years, and if they've experienced any harm, whether academic, social, emotional, or anything else, we must ensure that they have the supports they need. I know that Arlington will continue to support our students and our public schools, and that our future is very bright. Our future in Arlington is very bright. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Matt and Barbara. I think actually our government, our schools are really like this, and really Arlington has always, always valued education. So now I'd like to welcome to the podium our County Manager, Mark Schwartz, who is our County Manager, but also a bit of an amateur historian genealogist, I think. He has done quite a bit of research and thinking about the past 100 years as he compared the census of 1920 to the census of 2020. He's going to share just a few nuggets with us tonight. Mark?
I'm also an amateur county manager. We'll talk about that some other time. So first, I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening, and I see that Diane Kresh and Cynthia Liches-Torres, who are two phenomenal county staff, are here, and I wanted to thank them. Also, Elizabeth Hardy, I don't think is here this evening. She and her team helped my work, which was over about a year to do this analysis and comparing the 1920 census to what we thought would be the 2020 census, realizing, of course, we didn't actually have the 2020 census results to go on. When I made this presentation a little bit over a year ago in September of 2020, and I did a shorter version for the Arlington Historical Society in January, we had not yet received any data from the 2020 census. The data we have received has been scant over the last few months, and a lot more to come over the next 6 months. But one thing that was interesting to me is that each year the Census Bureau puts out something called the American Community Survey, which talks about a set of factors and it's fascinating data about what's going on in that county. So this time last year, we were doing a comparison, and in 1920, Arlington was, its racial composition was 83% white. And under the American Community Survey that we did last year, the estimate was that Arlington would be 64% white. Well, we actually have this is one of the few data points we have in. Share it with you as a point of information. Arlington right now is not at 64% white, but 58% white. But what does that mean? So we've done some diving in on that. We'll have some more details on this. There was a question on the census last year, that allowed you to answer what your race was. And you could answer that you were white, white alone, white plus one race, white plus two, white plus three, and white plus four. It turns out that given this degree of detail, that we're not sure actually how much has changed from what our estimate was, but we know more people are identifying themselves as not just one race, which has been, I think, the biggest change. There's no way for us to know back in 1920, except for the somewhat offensive mulatto and other kind of characterizations. Our community has actually become more diverse. The percentages of minorities in our community have grown, and people identify themselves individually as more diverse. So something else to be looked at, and we'll spend a lot more time diving into that once we get more data. Not willing to rest on the work that we've done there, the upcoming projects in my effort to annoy staff include updating the work we've done on analyzing what happened, and Charlie Clark will know all about this, in 1929 when the city of Alexandria annexed a part of Arlington County that's essentially the Del Rey area, which made my comparison of the 1920 census and the 2020 census a living hell. We're going to be doing an update of that. We're also going to go back and try to see if we can figure out the impacts of the Spanish influenza in the 1920 census and try to compare what's going on right now with the pandemic we have. And finally, for a little bit of fun, we have all the census data that we categorized online in our open data portal, and you can do fun things. So yesterday, in the middle of, issuing a mandate on vaccines, negotiating various deals, I went in. Last time I figured out what were the most popular last names, but I figured what were the most popular first names in 1920 in Arlington. But before I did that, there were only 8 people who had the first name Mark, 4 people who had the first name Libby. This is shocking. 3 people who had the first name Matt, 29 who had the first name Katie, 3 with the first name Christian, and you're not going to believe this. Takis appeared 0 times in the 1920 census. But the most popular name in 1920, first name, was William. There were over 660 people who had the first name William. That's out of a population of a little bit over 13,000. The next most popular first name was Mary at 488, followed slightly behind by John at 453, and George at 305. So these are the kinds of nuggets that I amuse myself with during the day. And I did want to conclude by telling Cynthia something she doesn't know about, which is that my final project is going to be, we're going to be working over the next few years to take your iPhone and actually be able to show you the history of Arlington. So when you come into Lubber Run, you can hold up your camera and it will show you what was on this site over the last 100 years. Now there's a lot of work involved with that, a whole bunch of new GIS layers. I haven't told anybody in DES about that, but it's really exciting because we walk around the county, we see it as it is. I want people to see it as it was and how it informs what we are right now. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I'm going to turn it back to the member of the board who has been spending an incredible amount of time on this, Libby Garvey.
Mark's a little taller than I am. Thank you so much for that, Mark. And we're going to look for a way to get you to share more of your analysis once you get all of that data, and we're going to be after you to do that. So next up is really what is the main event, I think, and that is Diane Kresh, our Director of Arlington Public Libraries, without whom tonight really would not have happened. And Diane's going to help us with the trunk. I think we're going to look about sealing it. Diane, where are you? Yes, come on.
Thank you. Nice to see all of you, honored guests, residents, colleagues, staff, elected officials. It's really, truly an honor to be here this evening. I grew up in Arlington, and it's been a joy to work on this project and get to know even more about the history. A We the People bookmark, a knitted stress ball in the shape of the coronavirus, many masks, 3 t-shirts, a selfie of a marcher for Black Lives Matter, a program from a memorial service of a beloved colleague, a message from the county manager, a Time magazine cover photo of an historic first, a collection of poems by Arlington poets, 100 objects selected for posterity in a time capsule containing souvenirs of the year that was. 2020 was supposed to be celebratory, the 100th anniversary of the name of our community of Arlington, the 100th anniversary of passage of the 19th Amendment, granting many women, including the women of Arlington, the right to vote, a decennial census, a presidential election. We were supposed to eat cake, sing happy birthday, take joy in the community we have chosen to call our home, a community that in less than 100 years evolved from dairy farms and cherry orchards to a vibrant community now home to many corporations. And then in March, in keeping with our centennial theme, a global pandemic interrupted our plans and disrupted our lives. More than 19,063 Arlingtonians have been infected with the virus since March of 2020, and 274 have died. Losses still felt throughout this community. Schools and libraries closed, restaurants shuttered, some never to reopen. Virtual meetings replaced in-person exchanges. Grocery stores could not keep hand wipes and disinfectant in stock for months on end. Recipes for homemade soap proliferated. Family holidays were curtailed or canceled altogether. Commuter rush hours were non-existent. Professional basketball teams played inside sealed bubbles. Residents created safety pods of friends and families, and phrases like social distancing flattened the curve and hygiene theater entered the vernacular. It was both the worst of times and in some ways the best. Here we are 1 year later, gathering with face masks in place to celebrate our heritage and with a little pomp and circumstance ceremoniously seal our time capsule. Looking both ways, the subtitle of the exhibit accompanying this evening's centennial event asks that we consider our shared past as we prepare for our future. Like most history, ours too is messy, imperfect. We have not always been who we say we are. Our actions have sometimes fallen short of our words. Yet we have always tried, both as individuals and as a community, to do better. The 100 objects in this capsule do not tell the whole story of Arlington, nor could the stories of the 238,643 residents counted in the census. Stories are the bedrock of history, and they too require time to age and acquire added meaning and context. It will fall to the next generations to interpret and reflect anew on the story of this moment in Arlington and place it in a national and global context. Drawn from individuals and civic groups across the county, these items are the raw materials that will add depth and breadth to any interpretation. Arlington County and its leaders have been challenged to provide aid and support to our community throughout the pandemic. And under extraordinary circumstances, everyone from public safety and frontline health workers to those who keep our drinking water safe have delivered the best services we could as the immediate risks of the virus receded and our desire to get back to what we do every day rose. We learned to meet service needs in new ways. We helped one another. We looked out for the most vulnerable through meal and grocery distributions, and we enabled people to stay in their homes. We adapted. We took the bitter and made it sweet. Once sealed, the time capsule will not be buried. It will be stored in the collections of the Center for Local History of Arlington Public Library, supported, at least for now, by the staff who collected and curated the contents. The public library is a fitting home for a collection of this time. It is justly celebrated for its steadfast commitment to free speech, for its prevention of book banning and the spread of disinformation, and for its provision of tools to encourage independent thinking and civic participation, the health of which depends on the ideas and contributions of the many rather than the privileged few. A visual record of the time capsule will be available on the county and library websites, although admittedly, by the time the capsule is open some 50 years hence, other means of content delivery make references to a website seem downright prehistoric. And a record of the capsule and its contents will be registered with the International Time Capsule Society, preserved by the Not Forgotten Digital Preservation Trust, based in Princeton, New Jersey. The past 18 months were not what I expected to experience at this stage of a long career in public service. I have been heartened and humbled by the resilience our community of Arlington has showed, bowed at times, but never broken. As leaders and residents, we gained wisdom and burnished our faith in one another. And whatever we did to keep our community safe, we did with grace, dignity, and no small amount of good humor. In closing, I signed this document in the same manner as I've signed off on all communications since the start of the pandemic. Stay safe and stay hopeful. Thank you for being here. I want also, please, to recognize the members of the operations group within the Centennial Committee, which was under Cynthia's direction. This event didn't just come together. A lot of people played very critical roles, and so if you'll indulge me for a minute, please. Angela Adams from AED Cultural Affairs, feel free to raise your hand. Stacia Aho Libraries, Julia Berg Libraries, Tanya Cohen, Emergency Management, Courtney Crawley, Comms, County Manager Office, Peter Hill and his team with ATV, Cynthia Lichese Torres, CPHD, Office of Historic Preservation, Justin Martin Libraries, Charlie Meadows Libraries, Pete Lusk and his staff in DPR, who made this event possible to be held here in this glorious, glorious facility. My supreme thanks to Jane Rudolph, Director for Parks. Henrik Sundqvist, Libraries, and finally, Mikkel Tawney, also CPHD, Office of Historic Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. How many of you knew that there was like a whole repository list of all of the time capsules in the whole country? I never knew. It's pretty cool, including when they're going to be opened. So, what is a birthday for a county without a proclamation from the General Assembly? So, with us tonight is Delegate Patrick Hope to read the proclamation that's in the trunk. And he managed to find it because it was prepared, I think, originally for March 2020.
A year ago.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. Good evening, everyone. It took me about 90 seconds to get here. I live just up the street, about a block away. And this event, of course, was more a year in the making. Not just because of coronavirus, but you can go back a little bit further than that. I got a phone call from Frank O'Leary. Everybody probably knows him, and our former treasurer. And he said to me, Arlington's 100th anniversary of the renaming is coming up. We need to look into why first we renamed Arlington in the first place. And I know there's some various different stories, contradictory stories about why that all came about. And so someone knows the truth, of course, to all of that. But at any rate, the decision was made to change the name from Alexandria City to Arlington County. And I guess the next step is, why don't you just change the name? But of course, the bane of the existence of Arlington County Board and the school board is that anytime you want to do something as simple as that, you have to get the permission of the General Assembly in order to do that. And we looked through the archives in 1920 when the legislation went through to see if there's any debate at all about the changing of the name. And we couldn't find any debate at all in the journal from 1920, but just that it was done and it was passed by the legislature. And so what I want to do is I want to read some portions of the resolution, and I'm going to bring it out so I'm going to prop it up so people can see it. Absolutely beautifully done. And I'm just going to read some of the whereases. This is House Joint Resolution 455 commending Arlington County, March 3rd, 2020. Whereas in 2020, Arlington County, one of the most prosperous counties in the United States, marks the 100th anniversary of the renaming of Alexandria County as Arlington County. And whereas Arlington County traces its history to 1801, when part of Fairfax County that had been ceded to the federal government for the creation of Washington, D.C., was designated as Alexandria County, and whereas Alexandria County was retroceded to Virginia in 1846, and after the Civil War, the county thrived as a suburb of Washington, D.C., thanks in large part to the introduction of streetcar system in the late 1800s and the construction of the Washington and Old Dominion Railroad in the early 1900s. And whereas to avoid confusion with the city of Alexandria, which had incorporated as an independent city in 1870, Alexandria County reorganized as Arlington County in 1920. The county took its new name from the Arlington House, the grounds of which now serve as the site of Arlington National Cemetery. And whereas Arlington County exercises the functions of both county and city government through its county manager plan and was the first county in the United States to adopt such a system, while Arlington County is geographically the smallest self-governing county in the United States, it ranks as one of the most populous counties in Virginia. Whereas Arlington County was a pioneer in the school integration movement, announcing plans to integrate its public schools in early 1956, Stratford Junior High School ultimately became the first public secondary school in the Commonwealth to racially integrate in February of 1959. And whereas Arlington County has taken an active role in transit planning in the region and its work to prepare for the construction of the Washington Metro has become a model for revitalization of older suburbs throughout the country. And whereas with its rich history, vibrant cultural diversity, and economic vitality, Arlington County and its residents have made incalculable contributions to the Commonwealth and the United States. Now therefore, be it resolved that the House of Delegates, the Senate concurring, that the General Assembly hereby commend Arlington County on the occasion of its 100th anniversary of the renaming of Alexandria County, and be it resolved further that the clerk of the House of Delegates prepare a copy of this resolution for a presentation to the Arlington County Board as an expression of the General Assembly's admiration for Arlington County's unique place in the history of the Commonwealth. And that was, of course, signed by the clerk of the House of Delegates, Suzette Denslow, and passed by both the House and the Senate in 2020. So it's on behalf of the Arlington delegation and really everyone on the Virginia General Assembly commending Arlington County on this occasion. And I will say this, I didn't read all the whereases because it goes into different parts of the history of Arlington County. When I put all of this together, I wasn't ever always very confident of what I read in books about the history of Arlington. And so I want to thank the Arlington Historical Society. Many of the historians, so people are here from the Historical Society. I consulted with them to make sure that we got this right and make sure that every part of Arlington's history in here is accurate and reflected here. So again, on behalf of the General Assembly, commending Arlington County, very happy to be here and to present this resolution. So thank you all very much.
We're going to do a picture first. Sorry, quick photo op we don't want to miss. It's going to get sealed away for a long time.
Masks or no masks?
I think no mask. No masks. Don't worry, we're all here. We're all here. Are we in enough?
We're good. We're good.
Are we close enough? You got everybody?
I got everybody. Best looking photo, I'll take a little bit.
What a flirt. Now we want to
We were going to have comedy tonight, too.
Now we want to pull it forward and seal it.
Can we do that a little later because Katie's not here to sign the letter?
Oh, I thought I saw her come in, but okay.
Is that okay? Because we'll do it at the end.
She's here.
Oh,
She's in green right there.
oh, all right. So I think we've been joined by one of our county board members, Miss Katie Crystal. Are you here, Katie? Because we have a letter that we're putting in, and we've all signed it, but Katie hasn't because she got stuck in traffic. How very 2021. Would you like to come up and sign it, and then we're going to seal the trunk, okay? But I don't want to seal it until you get the signature. Yes, we seal it. Excuse me? I didn't know you were here. There you go. We haven't rehearsed this part.
I know how much you like it.
All right, so now we're going to stay here because we're going to seal the trunk. And Diane's going to show us how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
So this is the lock.
Remember the key.
Very, very small. We're going to pull it in front here. I do have the key. Let's pull it over here. No,
Some things are
some things will be different, please.
Where's Geraldo Rivera?
Really?
Feeling you need Geraldo Rivera.
Okay. It's an obscure but okay.
So,
Sometimes you see things and that's
All right, you guys gather close so we're all in the picture. Come on, Christian, Katie, everybody. Pretend like we're like doing something to help Diane. All right.
Stand behind the podium. I feel terrible about my jeans.
excellent.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad this is going to go to the library, and we know where it's going to go. Somebody was talking to me about how they had visions of, remember the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? When it gets in the big warehouse. Anyway, so we have to sing happy birthday, or at least have some music. So it may seem odd, but our Director of Economic Development is here with us, Telly Tucker. And I asked him if he could do something. He's a trained musician and said he's kind of worked up a little something for us. And take it away, Telly. Thank you.
I promise to do this only if you sing, to disguise the blame.
I knew I wanted you to do that. Thank you so much. We're going to hear again from Telly, yeah? I hope so. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming. We're kind of winding up here. We have filled the trunk. We have sung happy birthday. We've had a proclamation. There's cupcakes and cookies out there, so on your way out, what would be a birthday without that? And this trunk's going to be open in, as I said, we've said 2071. So I was thinking about this, that in 2071, this is a year when my own grandson, who's about 20 today, is going to be my age. And that's kind of interesting. And it feels like tonight is almost a moment out of time, if you will. This time trunk and the whole effort is a way to kind of try to have a conversation with the people who are going to be here 50 years from today. Many of them not born, Some of them are here now with all their lives ahead of them. And it emphasizes for me, as I hope it has for everyone here tonight, why it is we do this work of public service. As Matt's hand-raising exercise showed, we all do public service in our own ways. That's kind of what makes Arlington, Arlington, as far as I'm concerned. And we all are working to try to make this community a better place for those who come after. And hopefully, our efforts to remember and reflect have conveyed our commitment to a better Arlington, and will give some inspiration to those who are going to come after us to continue this work. So I cannot thank enough the Event Planning Committee and everyone here. Special thanks to Peter Hill, and his staff who's doing the videotaping, so this is going to be preserved, which is really great. Many thanks to my aide, Kathy O'Malley, who kind of made all of these last-minute letters, kind of got put together. And I will quickly read, just quickly, the names of the folks in the committee, because we've been together now for about 4 years, and actually we're having so much fun. We're planning to stay together. They may not all know that, my committee, but we're gonna regroup in January, and we got more work to do. So as you know, we've got Diane Kresh, our Director of Libraries, Cynthia Lichese-Torres, some of you have heard these names before, John Weisstadt, Emma Violan Sanchez, and Angela Adams, Stacia Aho, Carmela Ham, Kathy Hicks, Kim O'Connell. If you're here and you want to raise your hand, please do. Gregory Pierce, Colonel Joseph Simonelli, Nancy Tate, Michael Tawney, and Kathy O'Malley. So thank you all. Thanks everybody for coming. The contents of the trunk are streaming on a loop out there. If you want to see what's in the trunk, feel free to watch that. There is a cool button display there that was done as a way to try to get people to learn how to sew buttons so they could repair clothes and stop throwing everything out all the time. It's kind of a cool, it's in a map of Arlington. Take a look at that, grab a cupcake, grab a cookie, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, stay safe and be well. Thank you.